I'll leave Gary to give me a semaphore when he thinks I'm getting too close to the end there and running out of time. Because I get carried away. Some people think I ought to be carried away. Okay. You were just going to say that, weren't you? Yeah, you were. I know you. Okay. All right. So last week we looked at this beginner's idea. I think behind everything there's certain suppositions involved. We're going to look at that a little bit more. But basically, this is a question that the world can't answer, and we struggle to answer to really a good degree. Though we believe in the existence of God, he's such a complicated being that we only can identify with him most through Jesus in his work of redemption. But as Roger said the other day, when you look at the complexity of the creation, we're talking about an awesome God that we don't always give justice to for the quality of the ability to create in the manner that he has created. So we're confident, rationally, thinking in terms of, well, we exist, and every cause is an effect has a cause, and therefore we believe intelligence made us. Now, if you want to think that you just came from a lump of rock and tunneled out by yourself somewhere, that's feel free. And if you want to think you're an ape, an animal, feel free. I know a few of my relatives swung by the neck, but I don't know any of them swung by the tail. Anyway.
I like it, Graham.
I would like to say they get better. I would like to say they get better. Okay. Yes. Okay, right. In the so-called Big Bang or exploding universe theory, unbelieving scientists have gotten as close as they're likely to get to the concept of the universe of space, time, matter, energy, motion, created out of nothing. Terry sent me a link the other day. Every year, our friend Hawkins, as opposed to Dawkins, as two of them are really prolific. One's Dawkins and one's Hawkins. Hawkins is a guy in a wheelchair. And he spends a bunch of time with MIT, one of the big science universities in the States. And as part of that, he gives lectures. And his last lecture was on basically the beginning of the universe and the existence of God, or lack of it. As far as he's concerned, God doesn't exist. And all that type of stuff. So no doubt he did a pretty good job in that. But they don't come up with anything new. As a matter of fact, I was saying to Terry, I was reading the links underneath, and one man, in talking about what Dawkins had said and trying to explain a little bit more to somebody else who'd responded and said Dawkins is talking rubbish, not a perfect response. Anyway, this guy said that Dawkins is implying that there's a blackness out there, which is the original, everything came from this blackness. And the man goes on to say that he is saying, he agrees with Dawkins, saying once the Big Bang banged, then there were two gases that came from that. And that's interesting because in my notes already, quoting some other people, they claim that the Big Bang came about because there already existed two gases, the same two gases already existed, and that's what banged. So there's a lot of movement within the theory, and they just can't get the story straight, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
You were thinking the story?
No, I'm just thinking, this blackness, well, why does the Bible say, God said, let there be light? Well, there was blackness.
It's interesting. Because in some ways, we're looking at exactly the same stuff. But we look at it from a biblical perspective, a God perspective, and they look at exactly the same thing. And because one of the statements you'll see later on is to say the only alternative is believing in God. That's unthinkable. We can't go down that route. So they're stuck with it. They're stuck with this other side. And yet they're looking at exactly the same thing. Because in the beginning, I'm going to come to it in a second anyway, but it basically is something as small as a full stop or a comma. Everything in the universe exploded. It came from that explosion. Whatever that comma or full stop was, everything and all billions of galaxies we've got all came from that full stop. So they're saying in the beginning something banged, and we're saying in the beginning God spoke. In actual fact, the impact of all this stuff is identical in a sense. We're looking at exactly the same. In the beginning something happened, and then everything else came from that something. We say intelligence was behind it. They say no, it just happened by chance. That's basically the argument. Okay, so we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, and hopefully as we go along it'll fill in some gaps in your thinking, and you'll be able to maybe share this with people and stuff like that, and help them realise that, look, you know, we've got a lot more in common than you think, but we need to look at it in a different light. Okay, so this, if you recognise the second part of that yellow statement there, that the universe, the space, time, matter, energy, motion, was created in nothing. Okay, in Genesis 1, when we're teaching Genesis 1, we talk about space, time, matter, energy, motion, all involved in the very first sentence in the book of Genesis. It's interesting, isn't it? So we're talking about exactly the same stuff, but we use God terminology, and they don't want God at all. They're just thinking, no, it just happened by chance. Okay, so basically, out of the blackness, you've got suddenly this explosion takes place. Now, they talk about that as being a cosmic egg, even smaller than the period at the end of the sentence. So you can see the comma. And that's not a period. That's a comma, isn't it? I need to put a period in there. So much. That comma at the end of the sentence. What they say banged was even smaller than that. Okay?
Where was the comma? Where was the comma?
Well, somewhere out there, Frank. In the blackness.
Yeah.
Okay? You can ask about that.
No, like if you're saying there's two gases, right?
Yeah.
And there was nothingness, you know, and the gas, there would be no reason for them to touch either. If
No,
there was
I
nothing, no motion, no nothing to create anything,
Well,
why could they ever touch each other?
It's interesting. It's interesting. We're going to come to that in a second, and hopefully a little bit later on. As a preview, basically, it's basically to say there was matter and there was antimatter, and sometimes they talk about the dark matter being antimatter. And basically, the matter and antimatter were fighting each other, and then at some point, the matter managed to get a slight advantage over the antimatter, and that's what then exploded. Okay? We'll come to that in
But it
due
doesn't
course.
matter.
Well, that's it. Some people don't mind, you see, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so the whole universe went to being at some point in time, measured backward by the speed of light, starlight, to about 50 to 20 billion years. They're not exactly sure exactly how many billions years, and it keeps changing practically every second year. But within that range, 50 to 20 billion years ago, Frank was almost there. But anyway, the primal matter, the existent stuff, supposed to have been something that became hydrogen, possibly with some helium from the very beginning. Now, this is the thing that they say bang, basically. This is everything, hydrogen is a big...
So was it a balloon?
Could have been a balloon, could have been a balloon. Somebody, who pricked the balloon?
Oh, there you are. See?
God pricked the balloon and then the
Yeah.
balloon exploded. Okay,
There
you may be onto something there, Terry.
Yes.
I'll write to Mr. Dawkins and let him know your name. Right. Anyway, so the primal matter is supposed to be something that became hydrogen, possibly with some helium from the very beginning. Because you see hydrogen involved in lots of stuff. We're coming back to hydrogen today in our cars and stuff. In years to come, probably our heating systems in our cars will all be run by hydrogen. If they can make it in such a way where we won't explode it. Because we don't want the big bang again, do we? Anyway, all the galaxies, with their stars, planets, comets and asteroids, were created from this speck of bang. It exploded. Now,
That's magic, that is.
well, it's actually, and this is the argument I was going to write to MIT, because I don't mind talking in front of a whole bunch of scientists and saying this is what he thinks happened, okay? But what I would like him to say, instead of this is science, this is what science says happens, I would like him to say, I believe my faith is that this is how it happened. Because at the end of the day, evolution, the idea of evolution, is a religion. Okay, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
But in his
It's not
debate,
science.
in his debate with the Archbishop of Canterbury, he admitted he was an agnostic.
Well, yeah, we didn't know. Yes, we'll come to the agnostics later on. So there's an element, but when he's talking to these people, the same as when you listen to Brian Cox on TV, he actually makes a point. He says, we know
Well,
this is not faith, okay? And what I don't mind them believing this stuff, provided they admit that it's a
It's
faith.
a theory.
It's a religion.
Yeah.
It's a religion.
Yeah.
It's not a science, because it's outside the agreement of science. But anyway, follow on. So, if they did believe this type of stuff, this is the kind of thing that they actually believe in. And it's important for us to understand what they believe and why they believe it, so we can then deal with it in a interesting manner. There was a couple of articles I read about debates. And a guy wrote in America, an evolutionary guy in America, he says, I wish evolutionists would stop having debates with these Christians, because 9 times out of 10 we'll lose. Because he says these scientists, so-called, go into these debates thinking they're dealing with some numpties, that's a good word, that don't know what they're talking about. And he says 9 times out of 10, they come up against these creationists in debate, and the creationists wipe the floor with them, because they do know what they're talking about, and they have the facts at their fingertips to prove their arguments. And he said, we just need to stop debating these guys until we learn how to debate properly, until we get our facts together properly. Okay? They treat evolutionist Christians as just, nutcases. And therefore they walk into these debates and they get the floor wiped for them. Because a lot of these Christians know what they're talking about and can handle both sides of the argument. One gentleman I know, he actually teaches probably 18 to 25-year-olds, and he challenges them. He says, I don't want you to hear you talking in a bad manner or a derogatory. That's a big word.
Good word.
Yeah, what's another word for derogatory? Putting down.
Disparaging manner.
That's another big word. Anyway, in some kind of manner that's making fun of some other religious group. He said, unless you can tell me what they actually believe. It's no good laughing at somebody if you don't know what to believe. If you know what to believe, and you then find somebody to laugh about, fair enough. But if you're laughing about them and you don't know what to believe, you're wrong. That's being ignorant. See what I mean? So we need to be able to understand what an evolutionist thinks and whatever. Anyway. What many fail to understand about the theory of evolution, spoken and written about with such authority, both on TVs and so many books, by so many, is that it is not scientific fact, but a religious faith, a many and varied system of belief about the origins of the universe, and it changes practically every 10 years. There was quite an important evolutionist speaking at a big symposium. It's a bunch of people getting together on matters of science about 1996, and he said basically practically everything we've taught before 1995 we need to bin, because it's no longer the truth. It's no longer what we believe now. The facts have changed so much that what we used to teach is just totally by the wayside now.
Graham, 60, must be 60 years ago, 70 years ago, I heard a professor say, the reason we believe in evolution is not that it has been proved or that it is provable, but that the only alternative is special creation, and that is clearly unthinkable.
Funnily enough, that's a very quote I said about 5 minutes ago, but I didn't actually quote it exactly like that.
Oh, I see, okay.
I
heard that.
I remember reading it, but I couldn't quote it like that.
Oh, I heard that.
I'm glad you did, because I haven't got a video, so at least you can remember that. Okay. That's right. It wasn't because the facts are all on the evolution side. It's because the problem is, if they had to admit to believe in God, opens a whole can of worms and they don't want to go there. So they've got to shut off their minds from that. So, it's not a scientific fact but a religious faith that many and various systems of belief about the origins of the universe. And they're changing all the time as the science varies, as their what do you call them, things, the telescopes get bigger, and they're changing all the time what to believe. The faith that changes from year to year on a regular basis as new ideas are proposed and old ideas are rejected. I remember years ago reading a book about the Louvre, or whatever how do you pronounce that, Frank, that place in Paris?
What's that?
The Louvre.
Louvre, just Louvre.
Louvre, okay. A bit like a loo brush. Louvre in Paris. He said there were 3 miles of shelves full of scientific facts that used to be believed, but are no longer current. 3 miles of shelves that are no longer current of scientific belief.
Can I give you another quotation?
Go on.
When Lord Kelvin's son
Yep.
became the curator of Glasgow University, he said you can go down into the basement, you can go to the shelves, and every scientific textbook that is 10 years old and older, you can take them off and put them in the cellar because we won't need them anymore.
Right. Science changes every
That's
10
right.
years. Okay. Maths is fairly right, but a lot of other stuff changes all the time. So faith is changed year to year on a regular basis. New ideas are proposed, old ideas are rejected. And funnily enough, what we get is the modern stuff on TV is not cutting edge. It's usually the stuff that's already been rejected. It's what is called popular science, and it's actually deliberately produced to promote disbelief in God. A lot of it. Okay. Anyway, so the faith if an evolutionist was in here today and he knew what he was talking about, this is what he would tell you. Now, you may not quite understand it, but hang in there, all right? Okay, this is what basically faithful evolutionists would say. I'd like to share what a creed of an evolutionist would look like if they ever admitted to having one. An evolutionist is anyone who believes that the universe created itself by random, naturalistic means without the input of an omnipotent, intelligent designer, i.e., not God, okay? It just happened by chance. Alright? I'll try and explain them as I go through, okay? But all these pictures are actually pictures from NASA of space. So you believe that evolution was a process and mechanism responsible for bringing us to where we are today. Life's genesis or beginning was the Big Bang. If you subscribe to that belief, then this really is approximately what you believe. You believe at a time zero, a point in time, that all the potential for the 40 billion plus known galaxies was condensed into a microscopic ball roughly the size of a proton. A proton is smaller than this full stop. Okay? Now, this is basically the banging. This kind of picture here is a kind of image of the super hot situation, and you see a lot of stuff. Okay? You believe that where, why, how, and precisely what this undefined ball of quantum mechanically defined antimatter was is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. You ask them a question, what is this dark matter? Well, who cares? But it was there. Alright? However, within this primordial incipient of the cosmos, that's this weird beginning way back then, you believe there existed a false vacuum, which was neither hypercompressed nor superdense energy, nor any recognizable substance.
You missed a word out there, Graham, matter.
Yeah, okay. Supercondensed, compressed matter. So, basically, whatever it was super condensed. Alright? Into this space. So,
Who condensed
You don't ask questions like that. You don't ask questions. You believe that through this supercondensed ball of nothingness coursed a weightless, undefined quantum mechanical probability framework through which a scalar field would eventually come. You understand all this?
Oh,
Good
yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
well, yeah, how can we forget?
All right. All right. So basically, out of this nothing that was in the beginning, but it was supercondensed nothing, there came the probability of some sort of framework that we now see. That's the idea. Okay.
Glad about that.
You know, Terry will explain all this later. You believe at the sound of the Big Bang, at the very first tick of the time-space continuum, the pinpoint of nothingness with infinite potential, okay, this little speck of nothing with so much potential, in less than 1 millisecond, expanded to 15 billion plus light years in at least 4-dimensional time-space coordinates.
Do you get all these words from Star Trek?
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that this is defying the speed of light. This explosion that took place, that put into existence all these stars and planets and everything else, is defying the basic understanding of laws of physics we have today. But we could say the same with God. God did the same. Okay? So at this point, the difference is they're starting with nothing, and we're starting with intelligence. Okay? Now this is a picture that you often see in many of the books, encyclopedias and stuff like that, dealing with this idea. And it's broken up into time frames. So these are thousandths of a second, leading up to 300, and there's, what do you got? I've lost my second. Where's my second number? Let me see, I'll read this one. Okay. Number 3 is a thousandth of a second. Okay, this one here. That's the everything that happened before that is less than a thousandth of a second. And then it accelerates. So there was a period in the beginning, this first period here, when all force and energy was indistinguishable, still speculative. The particles respond to strong and weak and electromagnetic forces begin to emerge. The universe then grows from atomic to a cosmic scale in a thousandth of a second. Bang! It just goes from nothing to super universe. Then you have magnetism, or what we call gravity, begin to have an effect. And then you've got protons and electrons begin to come in. And then you've got protons join with electrons, and you get the first light from the Big Bang. So we're talking about less than a second. You suddenly get all this stuff happening. Unbelievable, isn't it?
It is unbelievable. That's the
Okay.
truest thing you've said.
Let's see if we can follow it through. Alright, so that's basically what you find in most textbooks. It says, you believe that through this stellar process, space itself expanded outward in a bewilderment of pure physics and chemistry. And in this surreal light show were unleashed as powerful distortions that for a sub-fraction of time, the primordial anti-universe was carved to the nth degree. Okay? Follow in there, hang in there. This extreme curvature, you believe, caused virtual particles to materialize from the previously undefined quantum netherworld in unfathomable quantities. Okay, so the stuff that we're made of, particles, protons and stuff like that, are suddenly coming into existence. This is all in the first couple of seconds. Well, less than a couple of seconds. Okay? Here's another picture. You'll get this in loads of magazines, loads of science things. This is what our kids are getting at school. Okay? This is the Big Bang Theory. The cosmos goes through a super fast inflation, expanding from the size of an atom to that of a grapefruit in a tiny fraction of a second. Post-inflation, the universe is a seething hot soup of electrons, quarks and other particles. Rapidly cooling cosmos permits quarks to clump into protons and neutrons. Still too hot to form into atoms, charged electrons and protons prevent light from shining. Electrons combine with protons and neutrons to form atoms, mostly hydrogen and helium. Light can finally shine. Gravity makes hydrogen and helium get together to form the giant clouds that will become galaxies, smaller clumps of gas, and become the first stars. They've got one of the telescopes at the moment. They've got so far out in the universe, in one of these galaxies, they've got a clump that they can just see with the strongest telescope that is creating something like 3,000 stars. Was it a week or an hour? Creating 3,000 stars. There's stuff's coming out of this thing so powerful that they can see lots of stuff happening. Okay, so this is what they're getting some of this, or trying to make some of this fit. Anyway, meanwhile, Bach says, you believe that as these subatomic particles begin to come together, anneal, from the inexplicable proto-reality, this is outside of reality, we talk about reality, they're talking about before reality, that fight between matter and antimatter emerged and becomes into a relativistic time-space continuum simultaneously. So you've got matter and you've got antimatter suddenly come into existence and they fight each other for control. Okay, that's basically the idea.
Who was there when that all happened to record?
Well, you see, this is, if you're science, then you should be able to see this. Somebody should be able to duplicate this. But because it's theory, faith, religion, it's all supposition.
I would say so.
Okay? But Brian Cox believes this. This is stuff he promotes all the time.
50, 60 years ago, Fred Hoyle, the Yorkshire
Yep.
physicist,
Big
came up
Bang,
with
yeah.
the theory of the Big Bang, and they abandoned it because they didn't think it was right. Now they've embellished it, and this is what
That's
we're
right.
getting.
That's right. As existence and non-existence, this is matter and antimatter, existence and non-existence, compete for the same dimension of reality, began to collide and then get together, anneal, that means join together, okay? Vanishing into a surreal ethereal vortex of the still expanding universe, almost as mysteriously. So antimatter and matter seem to disappear back where it came from, wherever it came from. But they don't know where it came from. Anyway, and this is this is quite a popular picture. This one you'll see in lots of different things.
Yeah.
So there's your Big Bang down the bottom, an expanding universe, and then it slows the expansion. And then as you look out in space, you're looking at the nova and the supernova and accelerating expansion. Okay, that's a NASA picture. Yeah, NASA.
Graham, how do we see a compressed nothingness? How like nothingness is nothingness?
If you
How do have a
multiply nothing
compressed-
with nothing, you get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one
I
of
could
the
turn around and say that's compressed nothingness, and that's doing nothing.
That's right.
Ridiculous.
Well, this is part of the problem. We can see there's a problem there, but they can't see it because the alternative is believing in God. So they believe in nothing.
Graham doesn't have to explain this because he don't believe it. You see.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's just telling us what they believe.
But if you had been sitting in that lecture, this is the kind of stuff he's explaining. This is what Dawkins has been talking about this last week. He showed a number of different. It's funny actually, as far as I can understand by reading some of his books and reading stuff about what he said, for the last 40 years he's been working on a problem. And when he proposed the solution to the problem in a big symposium of other physicists, the day he did it, they questioned whether he got it right. And then a little bit later on, it came out that he hadn't got it right. So the thing he's been working on for the last 40 years, he hadn't got right.
Sure.
And it's almost like he's decided, because he's getting older, he's given up on that particular one, and now he's become like a public figure. So he's like he's like Brian Cox, become a public face of science. There's a lot of physicists within his own realm that don't believe what he's saying
That's right.
and challenge him on it. If you read some of the articles.
You know, see, you could never prove compressed nothingness. How could you prove compressed
But you see, you don't need to prove, because it's a religion, it's a faith. What they do is they say, okay, look, there's a book, all right? Now, if I said to you, somebody put that book together, and you said to me, no, it just happened by chance, then we're both acting in faith. I don't know who made this book, but we're looking at evidence that the book exists.
Mm.
And what we're trying to say is that my reasoning that says how that book came into existence is better than your reasoning that says how the book came into existence.
Yes.
My reasoning how the world came into existence, I believe that God brought it into existence, is my faith. Their reasoning, looking at the same world and exactly the same that I'm looking at, they're saying, no, there's no intelligence involved.
No.
It just happened.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
your argument's better because you've got a book in your hand and you say that, but you say nothing.
No, but they have a-
But that's
Nothing.
right. That's right. But you see, their argument sounds a lot better because they've got David Bellamy and all these people on TV and showing you lots of nice pictures.
Yeah. See, Graham's saying that somebody put this book together.
Yeah.
The evolutionist says no. There was an explosion in a printing factory. That's what came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
But like he's got an argument because he's got something.
Yeah, he's
but no,
right.
there's-
Where did it come from?
But there's no.
that's the weakness in evolution. And that's what we say, and they think we're nuts.
Well, we know
See?
they're not.
You know, because we're religious, believing in God, we're crazy people. Whereas they believe something, an explosion in the factory happened, and that became a book, and they're the clever ones. Okay, we can see the weakness. As a matter of fact, there's three major arguments, and this is one of them. What was in the beginning? There's three major arguments. They haven't got the answer for. This is their starting answer. But even this doesn't tell you what exploded. Where did whatever it was that exploded come from? You know. But they don't want you to stop here. They don't spend time back here. They look at, oh, look at this whale. This whale's a different shape from this whale, so therefore, oh, it must have happened.
Yeah.
You know, they spend time further down. As a matter of fact, later on, I'm going to come to it. Brian Cox, in one of his latest programs, one of his programs was saying, this is how it all happened. And when you listen to the program, waiting for this wonderful revelation of how it all happened, he was trotting out exactly the same stuff that Darwin's been on about for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people have rejected.
Yeah. The thing is, what they're doing now, they're saying in about 6 volumes what Genesis says in 2 chapters.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, okay, we'll hopefully get to the end of this guy's quote. Okay. Because this is really what they are. This is why it makes it so hard. We can't even understand what they're saying, and that's deliberate.
We've got to use the language like
They
that.
use language like this just deliberately to confuse the average person.
Yeah.
Unless you're into physics, wouldn't have a chance you are. Anyway, so a finite residue of tangible matter survives,
Okay.
and from it you believe billions of galaxies formed the known cosmos. Now, I didn't say that. That was actually a quote from a scientist. But what right has he got to stand up and say what an evolutionist would think? Okay, well, this is his credentials.
Yeah.
This is who he is, this guy. The person who wrote The Faithful Evolutionist, a guy called Dr. Einstein. He once believed in evolution, and his qualifications for be able to write about this kind of stuff, and he understands what this is, even if we don't, okay? He said he received his bachelor's degree in chemistry and biology at Point Loma University in San Diego, California. He got his PhD in organic chemistry from the University of Nevada. Then he got completion of his doctorate. He accepted a postdoctorate fellowship to do research in photochemistry. So this is all small stuff. It's the nitty-gritty of how things are put together. And then he went on, completed a fellowship, accepted a research position with Elan Pharmaceuticals, and he rose in that company to the director of medicinal chemistry. So his background is all chemistry and biology and science stuff, okay? He left that pharmaceutical world to become a professor of liberal arts at Nampa, Idaho. And today, what he's doing, his current research interests are in the areas of nanotechnology. And that's the synthesis of nanoscale, photocontrollable molecular switches. He's one of the guys who is working on stuff like making something so small that you can put it inside your veins and it'll go down there, a little motor, it goes down inside your veins and sorts out any rubbish that's in there, or takes a picture, whatever you want to pick. The nanotechnology, I mean, I'm holding my fingers up like that. The stuff he's making is smaller than that, okay? It's the stuff of the future. They're talking about all sorts of nano, small stuff, okay? Well, that's the kind of guy. And he came from an evolutionary background before he rejected the theory of evolution, and he says, this is what I used to believe. This is what we were all taught. This is what I've been teaching other people for years. I no longer believe that. Okay? I thought it was scientific. Now I realise it's a faith. Alright? So, time-wise. 4 minutes. Okay, we'll hold it there. Alright, so what I've given you hopefully is a picture of what some of the physicists, like Brian Cox and other people like that, this is what they believe, this is what they teach, this is what our kids are being taught in school. And so when we talk to people about evolution, quite often a lot of them don't understand this. All they really believe in evolution is what you see David Bellamy, he was bombed out. The other Attenborough and Brian Cox and stuff like that. That's the popular science. That's what a lot of people believe. They don't even go back into this. They don't even think about this stuff because that's too complicated for them. And so you know, they look at what? They look at here's a sparrow with a small bill, here's a sparrow with a big bill, and they say, ooh, evolution. They don't see the sparrow turn into an elephant. That would be evolution. You know, all it is a sparrow, you know, adapted to, it says, and the Bible says, variation after its kind. We'll hold it there.
Yeah.
Frank, would you? Okay,
How can
go on.
they put figures on it, something is 200 million years old.
Yeah.
Is that any different from how God did it?
Well, the reason why they put figures on it is because the mechanism of evolution in their mind can only happen over time. So they've got to keep pushing time back in order to give themselves enough time to get all the stuff in that they want to change to get to where we are today.
Even
Now,
with time it can't happen.
well, that's a bit, it's what they call, there's a word for it. Uniformitarianism. Things you see today don't change that much. And if you can measure what you're seeing today, and therefore you need lots of time to fit in how we got to where we are today. And so that's why they keep pushing back the boundaries of time.
You think of a number, then you double it. That's what happens.
Basically. And practically, you know, the news of the world was brilliant. The news of the world was brilliant. Every time they made a new discovery of whatever kind, you got this big front page thing come up and saying, all the science books have to be rewritten.
Yeah.
Because there's one bit of information that's now discovered. And quite right, because quite often it was as drastic as that. But sometimes it was just a headline thing. The favourite one, Leakey, the guy, archaeologist, that discovered Lucy and all that type of stuff. He would say, oh, here's man, 100,000 years old. Then he'd dig up another skull somewhere else and say, oh no, here's man, he's 250,000 years old. All the science books have been rewritten. And then, oh, he dug up another one. Oh, goodness gracious me, he's a million years. Well, the Chinese, they believe they're a separate evolutionary race, and they've got a skull in one of their safes that they claim to be 3 million years old.
They won't let them look at it either.
No.
They won't let them.
Well, my fault. Anyway, Frank, would you lead us to word of prayer?
Heavenly Father, we're thankful